Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wheresoever you are. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. I am the West African correspondent, Amara, with the latest news on the continent of Africa. Welcome to this all-important platform where we discuss everything Africa, coming up to you with any development that may be so important towards the hearing of our numerous listeners. I always value your indispensable comments. Continue dropping your comments, suggestions to the show, and as so go on, we may be able to improve on the program. Today, we are also having another important program on the continent. Focus on Liberia, Roundtable Africa, inform you about current events on the continent, those that are actually affecting Africa, either directly or indirectly, those that Africans should actually know about, and things that by and large that Africans should actually do, maybe to exonerate the continent from the shackles of corruption, mismanagement, maladministration, total disunity, and these have actually resulted to almost everyday news of pandemonium across the country as current situation in places like Sudan presents itself. So today, let's start in Sudan. Sudan is a country actually we all should know about when we talk about Sudan. Sudan is a very beautiful country on the continent of Africa, which prior to this time was actually made up of black Arabs that are black and also typical Sudanese. It is actually found on the continent. The Republic of Sudan is actually an Islamic republic by some virtue of fact. We should understand that Sudan history goes back long way in 2005 BC. So we should understand that Sudan experienced a lot of period of political havoc. Finally, we have seen an amalgamated society where we are hoping to see peace and unity transgressing from one stage to another. Unfortunately, the people of Sudan are no longer actually enjoying the peace and unity most African countries are enjoying because of political rivalry, ambitiousness of our soldiers, and this is sometimes bad precedent are actually wrong to set. In certain African countries like the Sudan, the military have actually been used with the corridor of power. Unfortunately, they think and feel that it is not the civilian who should lead them, rather it should be the military. Any government that comes into power without that maybe absolute support from the military, you could easily be risk overthrown, tortured, and the country has actually been thrown into a political pandemonium since Saturday. So let's see. Today, there was an agreement reached between the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese army for a ceasefire to be held. Unfortunately, the ceasefire was broken within minutes of signing it. The entire political faction in Sudan is in total disarray. Humanitarian workers are being assaulted. Humanitarians are under threat. Some of them have lost their life. In fact, there are allegations across the country that the Rapid Support Forces, led by General Dagalo, are actually looting the properties of people. And there is no water, there is no light. People are losing their life on a daily basis. The two forces in question are politically ambitious power mongers. They do not see any means to further a negotiation. Of course, UN have condemned the act, EU have condemned, ECOWAS has equally done so, EU, and all that, even the Commonwealth. But mere condemnation is definitely not solving the problem into the Sudan. We are seeing a set of young and old faction soldiers who think and feel that it is the army, the responsibility of the army to lead the country politically. the precedent is set into the Sudan will never come with development on that part of the continent. Because any authoritarian leadership, any de facto leadership, any leader who is a totalitarian will never have sustainable development. Because you must have sections of the population that may end up grow who may not tend to abide by any military dictates. This is what today we are seeing to the Sudan. We are seeing a situation which was nearing the path of peace. But because the military knows that should the civilian take over power, they are going to be thoroughly investigated, maybe prosecuted. But why the Sudan can't take the ideology of South Africa? When Nelson Mandela took over in the early 90s, he actually called for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. But there was no prosecution for even those who bore the greatest responsibility, although individuals are actually serving prison time for apartheid crime. But it has not been holistically done. I think the military is sensing a kind of feeling that should they hand over power to the civilian, they are definitely going to be haunted, prosecuted for their old days, their properties confiscated, and some of them sent into prison. Having realized that, they do not have the intention to hand over power. Today, we are seeing, even when nobody knows if the military have the perfect intention to fervently hand over power to the civilian, they are now struggling among themselves on who to lead the Sudanese military should the civilian government comes into power. But since Sudan have been used to the barrel, any government that comes into power that does not have the military backing, sustainability is a far-fetched idea. You could easily be overthrown. And the wealthiest people in the Sudan are the military. They are entrepreneurs. Some of them own private markets. They own lands. They own farms. They own companies. They know exactly what may happen should a civilian government take over. Now, it has resulted into a total chaotic situation. People like Iraq is also in a chaotic situation. Kenya and South Sudan offer themselves to foster peace into the Saturday crisis. They temporarily agreed for ceasefire to take place. Unfortunately, the ceasefire was broken within minutes of its inception. It's a calculated insult, and today Africa is really watching at a case where chaos is the order of the day. This should show or send a clear message to African leaders, those who have the excessive ambition to stay on or in power indefinitely. Even if they succeed, another generation decide to take over such baton, they may not end up to have that same mojo. This is what is going on into the Sudan. All of these things are a careful and deliberate construction of Omar al-Bashir, who is currently in prison. And he could be an influencer into everything that is happening, though in prison, but under the auspices of the military. And had the military, or if the military were actually willing to prosecute al-Bashir for his crime against humanity, they would have actually extradited him for quite a long time to The Hague. But having knowing that should they extradite him to The Hague, he's going to call names that their hair may end up ruling. Now the duty is with them, and Sudan is into a total pandemonium. Military barracks have been attacked. Health institutions have been pelted upon with arms and ammunition. The international airport is under seizure. Their state radio and televisions have been up for quite a long time. Some areas there is no water, there is no light. While other areas, there is no telecommunication network. So only few people know what is exactly going on. Some incidences are now taking place into the Sudan. They are not being reported because access to information is absolutely difficult. Humanitarians have been attacked. Even the US envoy have been attacked. So all of those things are going on. And popular allegations have been labeled against the government of President al-Sisi that Egyptians' army are now found into the Sudan. However, as in the case of the US, when Alpha Conde was overthrown, it emerged that the United Nations or the US Marines were around the vicinity where Mr. President was being arrested, detained, and taken to the military barracks. However, the United States government responded by saying they were there on a training basis. This is the same thing that's happening in Sudan. Al-Sisi, the president of Egypt, has officially confirmed that indeed there are Egyptians army into the Sudan. However, they are not there to participate in any of the war going on. They were there prior to this time on a military training. So if they have been found, they are not there to participate into any armed rivalry going on into the country. They were there during time of peace, and they have just been caught up within the fires, and they are only there protecting themselves. Since they are armed to the teeth, they wouldn't want to be seen parading around while the country is in total pandemonium, especially in Khartoum. There's a total chaos. I think Africa need to actually observe these things and see how things should happen. Unfortunately, the situation in Sudan is fastly deteriorating, and we are seeing a kind of retrogressive society where everything may turn back. So Sudan, or let me just say, both South and North are definitely not peaceful, and this may lead to further escalation of tension, killing of civilians, rape, and other things. That is for the Sudan. Let's come to West Africa. The steward of President Yahya Jammeh has actually been arrested in Switzerland and is on trial for kind of supporting a crime against humanity when he was serving as a direct security guide to President Yahya Jammeh from 2000 to 2016. In the popular allegation table against him in court, he actually failed to protect opposition leaders, civilians, and other opponents of Mr. Yahya Jammeh. They were being killed, some of them were roasted alive, some of them were tortured to death, some of them nobody knows their whereabouts till today. There is no explanation about the relatives of missing families. Unfortunately, this man has categorically denied, that as far as he is concerned, no crime against humanity took place in the Yahya Jammeh government during the time he was in active service. That is from 2000 to 2016. 16 damn good years. It is up to the court to prove him wrong and the state prosecutors. He had actually been in detention for 6 good months. He actually fled to the Switzerland when Yahya Jammeh was overthrown or was forced to relinquish power in 2016 after his sound defeat in a presidential election that was led by a coalition opposition leader, Adama Barrow. Today, Adama Barrow has fallen out with the ruling party, the party that came with him into power. He has formed his own coalition because there was an agreement that Adama Barrow will only be an interim leader who will lead the country for 2 years or 3 years, and the 4th and 5th year he will definitely resign and allow another person to take over power, which will lead him to election. However, upon his election, when the time of the agreement was reaching, as unpredictable, unscrupulous, nefarious African leaders are, he rejected the popular arrangement and claimed that He was not elected for a limited term, especially, or for him to divide his term, his first term of office, which is for 5 years, for it to be divided. Rather, he was elected for 5 years. So if anybody wants to become the president of Gambia, then they should wait after the 5 years, they can contest against him. Successfully, he's organized a party and ended up to coalesce himself, to form a coalition with former president and dictator of the Gambia, Yahya Jammeh, his political party. Some people are viewing it as a means for Yahya Jammeh to come. But because the man was so ambitious, he actually decided to coalesce or to form a coalition with Yahya Jammeh party. Successfully, he's won the election. Sometimes they say in politics there is no permanent friend, or there is no permanent enemy. What they have is permanent interest. And there are times for you to have your goals, you can even do business with your enemy as long as it is for you to achieve your aim. Today, he's under intention in Switzerland, that's Stewart, and Yahya Jammeh is in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. He's actually there. So let's see Tunisia. Tunisia under President Kais Saied, a dictator who took over power in 2019, a law professor. Everybody thought that he could have been the better person to lead Tunisia. And Tunisia is the only stable democracy in Arab after the 2011 Arab uprising. I have seen places in the Middle East like Syria on a serious political, chaotic situation. So after that, Kais Saied came into power in 2019. He has actually handicapped the executive, maybe crippled the parliament, appointed people who can listen to his ordinance in the legislature, the judiciary, and surround himself with the yes-men cabinet. Yesterday, he ordered the arrest of the opposition leader through the court system, indicating that the opposition leader has decided to incite the Tunisians against his government, which is illegitimate and is not going to be called for. They have denied such allegation, and nobody knows the exact whereabouts of the current man detained. Popular story are saying that he is in certain police stations, but nobody knows. And Kais Saied is a kind of unpredictable African leader with excessive ambition. We have seen how he has on several occasions incited civilians or his citizens against West Africans, especially Sub-Saharan Africans. Places like Burkina Faso, Mali, Ivory Coast, Kenya, and Ghana have ended to evacuate their citizens from that particular country. Then finally, let's come into the regional forces in DR Congo have managed to see a 1 month ceasefire. Forces from Uganda, Kenya, and other places actually in DR Congo maintaining peace. That is the East African community. There is a serious war between government of the M23 rebels and the government of Etienne Tshisekedi. Tshisekedi succeeded Joseph Kabila, and Joseph Kabila beat a rival even when his father was alive, was Felix Tshisekedi, the former president and now the former opposition leader, but dead now. Former opposition leader. His son came in, Felix Tshisekedi came in and took over power from his father, Etienne Tshisekedi, after his death. However, because Joseph Kabila never wanted to be prosecuted, and Martin Fayulu, the opposition leader by then, was not having the absolute backing from the Catholics, I think Felix Tshisekedi ended up to win the election. Now the M23 rebels, who we actually formed in 2009, they are actually largely recruited from the Congolese National Army. However, they are a Tutsi version of the army. They have accused the government of marginalizing the minority Tutsi. Mind you, it is because of the Hutus and Tutsi rebellion war that caused the genocide into places like Rwanda. The Hutus and Tutsi war was also some time ago in Burundi. So the Hutus and Tutsi are actually introduced into East Africa. So now the MP23 rebels actually formed to ensure that they exonerate, if not liberate or emancipate, the marginalized Tutsi from the government of Etienne or Felix Tshisekedi. Felix Tshisekedi has refused actually to go into direct negotiation with the M23 rebels, accusing them to be insurgent, and the government cannot do any official negotiation with the rebel group. And the rebel group are strongly saying, though it is a ceasefire, they have actually in fact withdrawn from the areas where they previously occupied because of the presence of peacekeepers with blue berets. But that is not an indication that they are not willing to fight. And the only way ceasefire can be successfully meted out and peace and sanity will return to the DR Congo is when the government of Felix Tshisekedi agreed to negotiate with them. However, the Congolese government is saying that no, they can't negotiate with any subsection or rebel group. They term them to be terrorists, term them to be insurgents, they term them to be rebels, and they will never negotiate with rebels. They will never sit on the same drawing board to negotiate with rebels. Unfortunately, things like this are going on. So let's hope and see and pray if that peace is definitely going to be sustainable. Thank you very much for watching me. For watching Focus on Liberia television, online television. It's been me, Edward Amara, full West African correspondent. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.